So, here we go.
Hey guys, it's Moving Lord here, and today we're going to talk about Baldur's Gate 3. And
Alright.
no, we're going to talk about a specific portion, an aspect of Baldur's Gate 3 that has pretty much everybody talking all over X, not Twitter anymore.
Oh.
That people
All
are
over
pointing out
X.
some of the hypocrisy from Western studios and some of the mindset of some of these gamers who were pretty much against certain depictions and objectifications of female characters in other portions in some games, but it's pretty much okay in this game. So before we dive into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button, notification bell for more gaming content.
Is this the same
here
people
on this channel. So this video
This guy's probably gearing more towards like Eastern content is more acceptable. He's an anime fan.
be a bit of a rant because I want to give you my thoughts and opinions on this because we've been talking about this for the past 3 weeks, going on a month now, when it comes to the depiction of women and just the all-out censorship when it comes to content.
And you can see this guy has a fucking agenda with this censorship shit. Look at this fucking poster literally right behind him, bro. Like, he's been thinking about this for years.
Now's my time. This is my chance.
More specifically from the West.
Yeah.
So what about
Everyone's
Baldur's
making fun
Gate
of the
3?
fact.
Now, Baldur's Gate 3.
Everyone's making fun of the fact that he said PAX instead of past. The PAX 3 years or whatever.
3 has been a game that many people has been anticipating. I have owned Baldur's Gate 2 on Nintendo GameCube. Yeah, that was years ago.
Yeah.
Since
He
we have
has a
seen,
katana.
a Baldur's Gate game. But it was a game that pretty much everybody's been excited for, And
Right.
now that the game is out, this game is pretty much breaking records. Now, I will say that, like, Larian, the company that's been working on it, they work their asses off, and they also have a lot of developers here, especially on the west side of things, that's really panicking right now because they have offered a fully complete product. No microtransactions or anything of the sort. This is the full experience. And gamers...
As I said, the mystical word, the forgotten language of years past. Feature complete.
Right.
I feel like I hadn't heard that since 2005.
Pretty much,
are
yeah.
really appreciative of that, and that's really changed the dynamic of everything. Developers already felt threatened by Elden Ring. Elden Ring had also made Game of the Year and was a full complete package, full complete experience. So everybody's loving it.
I don't think devs felt threatened by Elden Ring. They were just upset the fact that because the UI for Elden Ring sucked, nobody cared. Yeah, because nobody's playing the game for a UI. Rethink your entire fucking career. You think people play video games for a UI?
Yeah. The UI is a means to an end, right?
At the top of the charts, and it pretty much, I believe, it dethroned Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. So that's not the issue here. They have a game that everybody enjoys playing, but there's an aspect that most people are really talking about on the cultural side of gaming, and that is the censorship for some aspects of certain games, and then when it comes to games like Baldur's Gate 3, is completely fine. And what we're talking about here is the whole sex and romance feature that's in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, you guys have seen my videos when I talked about how the West depicts women and everything like that. And that pretty much video have caused a lot of controversy on both ends.
Yeah,
most people agreed, and yet the other side who pretty much disagree with it. But you always had this common thing coming from journalists and the detractors saying that, hey, if you want porn in your game, you can go watch porn somewhere else. Or if somebody just want to see and have an attractive character or attractive female character or a female character with some curves, all of a sudden you're labeled an incel. Or hey, if you want this,
no, I think that's true. I don't know why modern games have like this, like there's some Western modern games that have like a focus on like making characters like unattractive. Like
on purpose, yeah. I've heard of that. But I think games should aim for realism. What a pause face, by the way. My bad, bro. But man, the east side of things goes so over the top with these like balloons in terms of like models. Like what the heck? So I think the West takes care of it quite tastefully. but there is also having to adjust for, I would argue, the loud minority who are going to, they're going to rip the game apart if you overly sexualize the characters. That's the same reason, like in World of Warcraft, they made a lot of changes to the models so that there's less exposure. So I mean, no matter what you do, someone's going to be mad.
Like, I don't know what kind of focus group, what kind of research testing told them that people actually want to play as like a worse version of themselves in real life. Like, who the fuck would want to do that? It's just like weird. Like, I don't. It's like whenever I see something like that, it just feels very weird and off-putting.
Most watch porn, but then you turn around and you look at Baldur's Gate 3,
Right.
and the most controversial thing before the game has released was the scene where
Weird music transition. Oh, the bear? I haven't even seen this, so spoilers, I guess.
you was able to have sex with a bear. One of the characters have this ability to transform to pretty much anything they want. So the developers wanted to show off the many different options that you have.
Yep.
And here it is.
There's a squirrel that is watching and is shocked. I didn't know that was a thing. That's hilarious.
You have the audience clapping and cheering.
Well, I feel like these people, like, they'd have been happy about some hot-ass girl showing up in a bikini probably too, you know?
Wait, I've seen this guy. Why does he look like that? Isn't he from... He's like a game dev, isn't he? Or does he just look like someone I've recognized?
Like, the thing is that the people that complain about objectification of non-existent women in fantasy video games, these people don't go to gaming conventions because they don't like video games.
The guy on the left.
These are people that are just like unhappy assholes that want to tell
gonna
other
do?
people how to live their life.
What are you gonna do?
Like, they're not real. They're not real.
It's just bear sex.
Like, and there's not that many of them either. It's
It
just
is
that
what it
a
is.
number of them have positions in like games news media, so they write articles that are extremely disagreeable, and everybody talks about how disagreeable the article is without
Sure.
realizing the irony of that. That this article is so disagreeable and so unlikable that everybody is talking about how bad it is. Because the truth is that I think that you're talking about two different groups of people. Because like, I don't think any...
Josh Strife Hayes behind that girl. Is it? Here? No. What do they mean? Oh, here.
Probably none of these people here would be
it
crying or
actually?
getting mad about that shit at all. It's some other weirdos.
Because that seems like
Anybody
Josh
that gets
Strife
mad
Hayes'
about like
friend.
the way that characters are depicted in a video game, you'd never see them at a public event. Especially not with other people. There's no way.
And just looking at the sheer
Oh, it was
ridiculousness
Josh Strife
of
Hayes.
a character
That's cool.
having sex with a full-on bear. Now,
That's
yes,
funny,
this person
yeah.
can transform into one, but the fact is, this is crossing the line of bestiality.
It
But
is.
that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Journalists was making complete videos about it,
I've
talking
always
about,
get Bear 16 reveal hits so hard.
oh yeah, this is a joke. You know, this is pretty funny.
Yeah.
And you know, and pretty much commending this type of degeneracy. But
No, the thing is, like, if you read the articles...
Degeneracy. But I mean, it's a video game. It's not real. Just so you know.
I don't know if like any of them said the same thing I said, is that it's not that the bear sex scene had anything to do with like the actual quality of the game. Like, nobody gives a fuck about this.
Some people didn't even know it was possible because they didn't go down that line to have that experience. So the fact that it was showcased, I guess, like, man, why are you getting mad when like this is probably a rare cutscene.
It's weird, but the reason why
It's
it
just
was exciting
goofy.
is because it provided a frame of reference of like how big the window inside of what's possible in the game is. So like usually most video games are like this big, right? But you had a bare sex scene and now it's this big. And it could be
Right.
even bigger. You don't know. And that's why that scene was so important. It's not because of what the scene is, it's what the scene represents.
Sure.
It represents a development studio and a video game that's not tethered by modern sensibilities, by, you know, like modernized audiences. People, like, it's just straight up, like, overhead.
Critique it all you want, overanalyze it all you want. It does not define the game. There's so much more to the game. It's just one thing to focus on for the sake of getting clicks on your media websites.
Overton window. Well, that's political. That's a bit different, but you could say that. Like, it's the same general thing. The point is that, like, it expands the scope of, like, what's possible inside of a video game. Does it matter that it's a bear? Yeah, I mean, I think so. It probably does matter. And also because, like, the bear is getting on top, it's not like the person is taking advantage of an animal. And because it's a bear that's not actually a bear, it's different. Like, there's a lot of, like,
That's more analysis than I cared for. I didn't even think that far.
nuances to this that make it to where it's not really bestiality. And, like,
The fact that it cuts to the squirrel who's like drops the acorn, it was clearly meant to be comedy. Like, there's an old movie called Super Troopers where they go like, there's a guy pretending to fuck a bear to like distract the rival police station from the state troopers, and the guy on the megaphone, "Hey, bear fucker!" Like, it's a joke.
like, no, but like you want to get down into it. You want to talk about it honestly.
I don't want to get
Let's
down
talk
into
about
the
it
bear.
honestly.
No, thank you.
Like, it's not really a bear. The dude is not like forcing himself on an unconsenting animal. Like, these are two consenting individuals, right? And so that's really why it's more okay.
Consenting
It's not like he's actually
individuals.
fucking a bear
Yeah,
in the scope
it's
of the
pixels
game.
in a game.
Then you turn around and you have someone like me and many others who point out that, hey, you know, what's going on with the female characters in Mortal Kombat, or what's going on with Western developers and how butt ugly they making women look in their games, and all of a sudden you're called the incel.
Okay, so this is your response to being called an incel, I guess. What do you mean butt ugly? Is she butt ugly? I mean, she's not conventionally hot as some people might think, but she's not unattractive. She looks like a real person who works out a lot.
You call it a misogynist, you call it a sexist, you
If
call
people got really mad at me whenever I said this about the Fable character, they did. They were fucking furious, man. I got shit on so hard. People were telling me that I was ugly and all this other shit. Like I don't own a mirror. Like that's the first time I've heard this before. Like, what the fuck? You think this is a surprise? Like, I have mirrors in my house. I've taken my photo before. I know this. Like, but you don't see me
Wow.
putting myself on the fucking cover of a video game. Fuck no. Absolutely not.
How strange.
called all kinds of things for saying that, hey, we want to see attractive looking characters, we want to see
Yeah.
attractive looking women on, you know, in our video games. You're pointed out just for wanting something that look attractive, but in this game there's plenty of scenes that you will see, I mean,
Well,
ridiculous.
look at you know, you want to
I can't believe this guy made a whole video. How long is this video? I can't see because it's behind Zach, but like, man, this is too in depth for this subject. It didn't require analysis.
see Chun-Li or Cammy or one of the other Street Fighter characters that are hot as fuck. Well, Street Fighter 6 is doing really goddamn well. Like, I think Street Fighter 6 has been Like this is from like a super outsider perspective, but I feel like it's done more to like elevate the fighting game community than I don't remember the last time. I do. I feel like it's done so much. It's been like the first massive, huge W in such a long time. Street Fighter 6's biggest fighting game, in my opinion. Evo was huge. Exactly. Yeah, it's fucking massive. And so, and also, like, look at the way that the characters are built in that game, right? Like, they're not pulling any punches with that. Like, there's all kinds of, like, super sexual stuff, even down to their moves and, like, the outfits and everything. So, I feel like, if anything, like, you look at the success of something like Street Fighter 6 or Baldur's Gate 3, I think that there's a lot of people nowadays that are just fucking tired of being told by some freak on Twitter that they're wrong for liking hot girls or they're wrong for liking hot guys in video games.
Either side of this argument, the fact remains, it's in a video game. None of it's real. So, like, just let people have their fantasies and move on. Focus on things that matter.
Like, they don't want to hear that anymore. And I think that the success of these games is a direct refutation of that. Nobody wants to fucking see that. Never paused the game when Chun-Li was doing her spinning star kick. I never played fucking Street Fighter. I've seen the only content for Street Fighter I've ever seen is I've watched DSP play Street Fighter. And that is funny. And that's all I need to see. Problem is telling people that being a hot girl is wrong. But, like, the problem is not telling people that being a hot girl is wrong. The problem is that that opinion matters to somebody. Because
right.
I think you can say whatever you want.
Just, like, let them have that opinion and don't even regard it. If it offends you, just be like, that's a dumb opinion. And focus on your opinion. Like, why do we have to have a whole discussion about it? Some games are going to overly sexualize women. Some games are going to create unattractive, ugly characters. Like, so what?
Like, the problem is that it matters. Like, anybody can say that, think that. Like, why should you care what this person thinks in the first place? Why does it matter? Like, so what? So they don't like this character in a video game. What does this have to do with anything?
Yeah. This isn't like a beauty magazine that's imposing standards of women like and their beauty. This is a video game. This isn't like this is how you should look. This is like, oh, here's a character that it's not a real person. Let's just make them like unrealistic. Literally unrealistic.
Cares? Maybe they want to make the character look more like IRL people. How many girls you know that look like Cammy? Not enough. But the thing is that
fucking asshole.
I mean,
oh my god.
I don't know. Like, I want to play like a game with like cool looking characters. Like, I don't want to play a game where you can be a McDonald's.
You know why it's not enough? Because it's unrealistic. That's why.
Cashier or a janitor. What do you mean? Like, yeah, I don't want to do that. That's boring.
Scene. One person showed this one scene where two characters, male characters, like a blowjob type of scene, which of course is masked out. And I won't show it or whatever like that, but people were sharing all over the internet and was saying that, yo, like, wait a minute, this is permitted, but yet games, especially like Dead or Alive volleyball, which is just girls in bikinis playing volleyball, that game was pretty much banned, couldn't come to United States. And then you had articles writing about it that it had, about the objectification of women, but yet you allowed to have full on.
How are you even arguing this, bro? Dead or Alive. First of all, what's with that name? Second of all, this game is not about volleyball, bro. And you know that. The sex in Baldur's Gate 3 is not even secondary. It's tertiary to what Baldur's Gate 3 represents as a game. There's such hyper focus on that aspect of the game. It's like not even anything of all the hours I've put in so far, which is coming up on 200 hours, like that's been such a small part of it. It's like cumulatively, it's accounted for about 10 minutes of gameplay.
Sex.
Well, because it's two different people. That's why. It's like, I don't think these are the same people saying the same things.
Yeah.
I think this is two different groups of individuals. I think the people that think that the sex scenes and the cool, like the weird, crazy shit you can do in Baldur's Gate 3 probably think Dead or Alive beach volleyball is cool too.
Nah.
Because they're just normal, like, normal people. That like, and if they don't like it, right? If they don't like the game, they just don't play it, right? It's not that big of a deal.
Disagree. People like Baldur's Gate 3 because of Baldur's Gate 3 being awesome, and the sex thing is just like oh, you can do this? Interesting. Moving on. Like, I think that's the vast majority of the reactions. There's a few outliers where, you know, they're not streaming or anything like that, so they've got the genitalia turned on, and they're probably like really going in for that part of the game. I know I actually heard about there's a speedrunning category for how quickly you can have sex with like all the female characters or something like that, like stupid stuff. But that's a very small crowd in the like hundreds of thousands of people who are playing this game. Dead or Alive, there's a focus there. It's a completely different conversation.
Sex doesn't automatically equal objectification.
Right.
It's not. I mean, they aren't even objects. It's code. Like it's a fucking video game. Who cares?
Yeah,
like
they're not real people.
People get so wrapped up in like what happens inside of a fucking. Who gives a fuck? It's a game.
It's a game.
I feel the same thing about movies. People care so much. Like they get in their feelings about what happens in a fucking movie. It's not even real. It's just so weird.
Game. Now the thing is,
Jesus.
I don't have a problem with sex in video games. If people want that, and it's all about giving the fans what they want. It's all about giving the fans what they enjoy and what they want to see. That's not the problem. The problem is the double standard here. And the people who want to see...
Okay. If I had to guess, you're a big fan of Dead or Alive. If I had to guess. I'm just looking at the posters behind you. I'm looking at the Marvel vs. Capcom arcade game. Something tells me that you like those games. But then you see something like Baldur's Gate 3 and you're taking that as a justification for liking the things that you like. And I'm not going to like say that you can't like the things that you like. Go right ahead. But you can't possibly compare those two things like they're apples and apples. It's apples and oranges. One game is a volleyball game with a very particular focus where this aspect is conspicuous throughout. The other is a role-playing game where there's so much immersive story happening for hours and hours on end, and then a few times these things happen. And per gameplay, per playthrough, it accounts for like 10 minutes out of 100 hours plus. Like, it's not the same.
You know, attraction in their characters and stuff, they're pretty much being
there's Cammy, right?
villainized for that. But
I mean, Street Fighter 6 is the most popular fucking game. Like, it's the most popular fighting fucking game. Like, I feel like maybe Smash might be bigger overall, but Smash isn't like a, you know, a classic fighting game. Like, what are we talking about? Like, Street Fighter 6 is fucking massive. Mortal Kombat? I feel like Street Fighter 6 is bigger than the new Mortal Kombat.
I would argue
feel like
that.
It's bigger.
Mortal Kombat is famous for its finishing moves, but Street Fighter has stood the test of time. When people talk about arcade fighters, they're thinking of Street Fighter.
But then it's okay to have these weird fetishes, having sex with bears, creatures, and all kinds of other degeneracy in this type of game, and it's completely fine.
Stop calling it degeneracy. It's a video game. There's nothing degenerate about experiencing a video game.
And I will also say this too. It just seemed like if it comes to Eastern studios, things has to be censored, but when it comes to Western style, Western studio games, then this stuff is, permitted.
I think it's the opposite, honestly. I do, and like you got to keep in mind that like you have like American, like I read actually a really good post about Baldur's Gate 3 and why they liked how Baldur's Gate 3 had such a European view on sexuality, where it didn't take it and make it this like weird, like big.
It wasn't the focus, and they didn't have such a like over the top expression of it. It just existed in a very natural way.
Big thing. It just kind of incorporated it into part of life.
Right.
And it had a healthy outlook on it that wasn't like super gratuitous or cringe or awkward or anything like that. Because like I think that the way that Americans look at sexuality and the way that Europeans look at sexuality are two completely different fucking things.
And it, even with the whole like genitalia setting turned on, I haven't seen it. I've had genitalia turned off. I can imagine it does the same thing where it very like tastefully cuts away, and a lot of what happens is implied and not visually seen. So it's so silly to be having this conversation. I imagine people in the comments of this video just tearing this apart.
So like even inside of the West, like what a studio like Larian does is going to be totally different than what a studio like I don't know, Blizzard does. Yeah, the US is way more puritanical. It's way more like ideological, etc.
Yeah.
And I feel like also like look at Lost Ark. Lost Ark, like yeah, they censored like one outfit in Lost Ark, but other than that, name one character in Lost Ark that doesn't wear high heels. Female character. I'm pretty sure there isn't one. Because I paid attention. I was like, is it really every single character? Yeah, it is.
Remember, back during PS4 and I think the PS5 version too, if I can remember, Devil May Cry 5 had scenes where it pretty much blotted out Trish's body, Yeah, but then all of a sudden when you had the last...
I mean, furthermore, let's talk about a different game. Cyberpunk 2077. There's the girl who's like really rich and has that like her rich girl like save me beacon was blocked by some hackers and they were trying to steal her organs, and you pick her up and there's just full nudity. Like, I don't know. I think the European approach is just like, hey, this exists, so we're not going to look past it and be all prude about it. We're just going to say, hey, this is part of life, but moving on.
Last of Us 2, Abby was getting just complete back shots. That dude looking chick was allowed to have a back shot scene.
Dude looking chick. Man, you're just being rude.
In that game.
Now, granted, this isn't a real person, but man, you're being rude. you're being a dick about it.
They had to censor Trish's, naked body in a video game. Like where's the consistency when it comes to that? It just doesn't make sense.
Different development studios. There's no universal standard that every development studio has to follow. It was just a decision made by a different developer.
Sense. And then let's talk about what Square Enix had to do to
I don't
Tifa and Final Fantasy VII remake. They literally said they had to really change her up.
By their ethics department had to change her up. Confirmed censorship from Square Enix's ethics department.
Okay. Choices made by a different development company. So you're saying because Baldur's Gate 3 depicted certain things, that's the standard that every other development studio must follow? And people can't be critical of a game like Dead or Alive, which entirely focuses on sexuality in the game, whereas Baldur's Gate 3 does not? I don't understand what this video is quite about. Baldur's Gate 3 exposes the hypocrisy of gaming culture. I don't think it's hypocritical. I think this is just different companies and their different ethics departments having different viewpoints on how much nudity is too much nudity.
I mean, I think all this stuff is super fucking cringe, by the way.
Yeah, it
and
is.
I think that changing video games to appeal to people who don't like video games is a bad idea.
Sure.
I think it was a bad idea whenever.
But that's what ethics departments do. They say, oh, if we release this and we show too much cleavage, then a lot of people are going to be mad at us. So please design it this way based on this conclusion, because we have all of these scientific articles that say such and such, and therefore this is how we need to appropriate ourselves. Yeah, some studios are going to do that. It is what it is. But why is this a whole, like, Baldur's Gate 3 as a justification for a game like Dead or Alive? I'm hanging on that comparison so hard because it's not even in the same ballpark.
Whenever World of Warcraft did this in Wrath, like Wrath of the Lich King changed a lot of WoW, and
Yeah.
it made the game in a way to where it didn't only appeal to like WoW players. It tried to appeal to like all different kinds of
Someone said it is called social engineering. That's not what social engineering means.
players, and I think that's why a game like, for example, Elden Ring and like Remnant 2 and a few probably other games that I could really just think of, like Legend of Zelda, maybe a handful of other ones, like the reason why they're still successful is because they appeal to a target audience. You can't just make like people that cry about censorship and they cry about sexuality and like, you know, like games not being in line with their worldview. You've got to keep in mind that these people will never be happy, because if they're ever happy, then they don't have any power. And the only power they have is by complaining about things. So
Who cares about sexuality in video games, man? Different game companies are going to depict it how they want, and it's just gratuitous. It's extra. It's not the focus of the game, unless it's Dead or Alive, apparently. But, you know, if people are going to enjoy those games, go right ahead. Those aren't the popular titles. Baldur's Gate 3 has a massive reception because of what Baldur's Gate 3 is actually about, and it's not the sex.
So they're never going to give up their power by saying that they're happy. Why the fuck would they do that? So the only way you win is to not play the game.
Right.
You just not play like Final Fantasy 7 or whatever. I'm saying, like, don't play the game with these people. Like, if they say something, ignore them. If they try to talk to you, don't listen. It
So
doesn't
silly.
matter. And that's the thing, is that like a lot of people don't understand this, but it doesn't matter if people don't like what you're doing or people are mad about it, because there's a lot of other people out in the world that do.
Right.
And you don't have to constantly appeal and make every single group of people happy. Like, look at Baldur's Gate 3. Imagine how many people, whenever they heard that Baldur's Gate 3 was going to be turn-based, thought, oh my god, this sucks. This isn't like all the other modernized games.
Right.
But they said, fuck you, we're going to make the game the way we want to make the game, and the way that we think the game is best.
Divinity and Divinity Original Sin 2 were so fun as turn-based combat games. And then when they took the story of Baldur's Gate 3 and applied the same systems, it's a masterpiece. It's absolutely, like, one of the huge benefits is that it can be so widely adopted by people who don't quite classify as gamers. It appeals to, well, I mean, I don't want to say a younger crowd given this current subject matter, but an older crowd of people who don't quite play games at the pace that some younger people can. It has so much room for a more wide adoption by people, and you can play at any pace. If you're the busiest person in the world, you can take some time to play some Baldur's Gate 3, save at any millisecond you want, and come back to it later. It's great.
And that's it. And I can respect that. But the truth is that you can never make people that are angry and that complain about shit all the time happy.
Especially
Because again,
shit like this.
if they're ever happy, then they don't have any power. And nobody ever gives up power. No, I think this shit, changing TIFO, like, who gives a fuck? Like, bro, who cares? Like, what? Where are these problems? Like, who actually cares about this shit? What freak cares about this? It's a bunch of weirdos.
This one.
Bunch of weirdos with problems in their head. I don't give a fuck what they think. Who cares?
This is so goofy.
Because of the ethics department, and they had to worry about how she's going to be presented, you know, especially when bringing the game here in the West. So now they had to change things up, give her leggings, they had to give her a sports bra, they had to do all these other things so she won't appear overly sexualized, but yet you're allowed to have these things in these Western developed games.
I don't understand what your point is. You're saying just like overly sexualize everything? Like, what are you arguing for? You're just upset that people like make fun of you and call you an incel for liking Dead or Alive? I mean, I don't know what your female situation is, or maybe you're not into female, but I get the strong sense that you are. Why? What is the argument that you're trying to make? Because there's a bear having sex with a Starion, then therefore all women should have bikinis?
That just blows my mind. It just boggles my mind how this is, you know, this is acceptable. And then, of course, we could talk about Ashley and Resident Evil 4 remake.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of fans who felt some type of way about them changing certain lines, removing certain aspects, you know, that refers to Ashley and everything like that. But then you look at games like Baldur's Gate.
That girl looked like a child. So I guess that probably made sense. Someone saying, "Wah, I can't see her panties." Like, yeah, exactly. That's how it's coming across. Like, man.
That's completely fine. And I also wanted...
Oh, this was so funny. And they don't show anything. Or maybe they do. I had the setting turned off. But this was hilarious, especially as a bard. Like, it's so good. Like, all of this is just natural and very comedic in a lot of cases. In some cases, it's more passionate, but like, it's such a small, like, microscopic fraction of the gameplay. Other games, it's like a centric part of it.
Just go on this website because it's just funny because how ridiculous it is as far as to how far the hypocrisy go when it comes to this. Now, there was an article here on Rock Paper Shotgun where it talked about
Baldur's Gate 3 is a relentlessly horny video game. No, it's not. TikTok, it's RPG sex o'clock. Nah. Rock, paper, shotgun? Man, like, a lot of people respect this particular media venue for gaming, but what? This is clickbait as hell.
I mean, like, Ash is beautiful, kind of cooking. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's an issue too, like, for sure. That shit is always, to me, it is so fucking cringe whenever they try to change, like, lines in a game because, like, what is this line? This line is going to offend people? Who is it going to offend? How many people? Like,
I don't
7?
appreciate this at all.
Like, because to me, I find it offensive that we can't just have exactly what it was because somebody's going to get their fucking feelings hurt. Like, to me, I find it very ironic that we can have video games that are all about guns and alcohol,
Right.
which contribute to more deaths and more despair and awful things in the world than anything else. Nobody ever fucking talks.
But when it comes to sex, then everybody's up in arms, and it has to be a discussion either for the censorship or justification of things that are blatantly sex focused. But I can't get over this title. Baldur's Gate 3 is a relentlessly horny video game. TikTok, it's RPG sex o'clock. It's such a small part of the game. This is that negativity bias where you're just so focused on this one part, but there's so much more to the game.
Talks about that, but the moment that somebody says the wrong word or something seems a little bit sexist, everybody loses their fucking mind. It's art. It's a video game.
Yeah.
The fucking art police, man. It's crazy.
It's not real. It's not real.
Baldur's Gate 3 is a relentlessly horny game. So pretty much, Alice Bell, she goes through her experience, and she's talking about the many different sexual,
Hang on a second.
relentlessly horny game.
Alice Bell, deputy editor. Alice, why are you so focused on this, Alice? Why, like, how many hours did you put into this game? It's an officially licensed D&D RPG of many hours of turn-based combat. Ragtag group of misfit heroes to save amongst mysterious cult. Every single one of those misfit heroes wants to get at you. In many cases, with zero prompting from you whatsoever. That's not true.
So pretty much, Alice Bell, she goes through her experience.
There's one romance option that I experienced effectively as a jump scare, entering a cutscene to see a character suddenly and not casually shirtless. It never ends. In hindsight, picking from a selection of genitals in a character creation was probably a clue. What? You had a very different experience. I don't know why, but I feel like that's just all you focused on.
And she's talking about the many different sexual, romance options that you have in the game and stuff like that. And then you go check, and that's not the thing I really wanted to highlight, but this is the part that really gets me. After she talk about her experience with the sex options and the many different things, she explains about what you can do with the characters in the game. Then she goes on to say that this isn't bad though. The amount of horniness is what creates an amount of choice, especially getting that campfire quickie, expected feature of RPGs. And that being the case, why limit yourself? It's a fantasy world. A statistically significant amount of Baldur's Gate 3 sex happens when one or both participants are floating in midair.
That's cute.
Do the bear sex. Do the weird tantric wizard thing. The other day, I got into an argument with a terrible detective who was also a tiny golden flying elephant. Why would the sex be the one thing in the world that's normal? Now, this is the thing that gets me.
I think people just need to get out of their fucking feelings about trying to make video games reinforce their work.
Yeah. That's ultimately all there is to it. It's such a small aspect of the game. It really doesn't have that big of an effect on your experience. So to put so much focus on it, let's be realistic here. Let's take a real world view. You work for Rock Paper Shotgun. You have to write an article that's going to draw as many eyes and clicks as possible. So you wrote about the one subject that's most controversial and gave it a spin to make it seem like, oh, here is what happens. You're saying 70% is unprompted? I just think you probably played your character in a way that made yourself favorable. Like every time you make decisions in the game, there's either so-and-so approves or so-and-so disapproves. You probably took a lot of the characters that just approved of your choices And based on their approval of you, they were more likely to feel attracted to you because they liked your personality that you developed in the game. Like that's really all there is to it. And the fact that they give you options to have like these little encounters, all of them say, no, I don't want, there's always a, no, I don't want this. Please go away. Like, and it just moves on. Like, it's not a big deal. But this is just for the sake of you getting your article to be popular.
Worldview of reality. Like, it's just so fucking exhausting for me to read this shit and listen to it.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this is a fake video game. Like, I'm just so tired of people with a chip on their shoulder trying to get everybody else to carry their cross.
Right.
Fucking stop.
There's an agenda here.
Just learn to relax and let art be art. If you don't like it, stop watching it. God damn.
You could probably play this game with 4 players and just have everybody in the camp, and then every once in a while you might get some kind of prompt, and then you just say no and move on and keep playing the game with your 3 other friends. Like, what is this?
The person right here, Alice, says that why limit yourself is a fantasy world. But video games, I've been saying this in all my videos. Video games is a fantasy.
Yeah.
They're not going like what's the point of going for realism? You're doing everything that isn't real in a video game, but then when it comes to depictions of certain characters or genders and stuff like that, then that's when we really need to pump the brakes on this. We really got to be realistic with this. That, you know, quote unquote, most people would say and what Western developers would say. But
well, let's just sum this up real quick. If you're into Dead or Alive or Street Fighter or what have you, which often has these animations and character models that come across a certain way and people judge you for that, you made your bed, so sleep in it. But people aren't going to say, oh, you like Baldur's Gate 3? It must be because you like having sex with bears. Nobody draws that conclusion when they think about Baldur's Gate 3. So, sorry you're mad. Sorry you're sad.
all of a sudden, this game is completely fine because it's just a fantasy. You know, the sky's the limit. You know, just remove all the shackles. Just have fun. Go all out when it comes to the pure, you know, degeneracy that you're allowed to engage in this game.
Give me a moment, for pity's sake. You've exhausted me already.
Now, like I said before, if that's what people are into, I don't have a problem with that when this is
those encounters are fun too, and they just have a conversation and then it cuts to black and it's literally just the narrator describing. It's like reading a smut novel, although I don't know what that is like. I haven't read smut, but I can imagine
something that's catering to that base. But all I'm saying is keep that same energy when you have fans who want to see attractive women or they want to see certain depictions of characters in the games that they enjoy, especially more specifically Japanese games, developed games, or Eastern developed games. Because it seemed like that one side is okay.
I think that like it's definitely, there's some truth to this. Like I think that the biggest exception to this is like I'm not a fan of the lolly shit in games.
Oh, that's weird.
I
yeah, keep the notion of depicting childlike images out of games. That's gross.
That's where I draw the. I think that's weird. I don't want to see it in the games. Like, I don't care about like what their culture is. I don't give a fuck. I don't want to see it.
Right.
But I mean, like, I'm not gonna lose my mind if they make games like that, right? I mean, I can't.
If there's a game where there's like an attractive designed woman and they're like all covered up to hide some features, like, I'm not gonna have a tirade and be like, oh, this fucking Western world censorship is such bullshit. Where are the titties? Like, fuck off, dude. You're so boring.
Can't control what other people do. And also, like, if there's a game that's like that, you know what I do? I don't play it. If I feel like that part of the game makes me uncomfortable, I just don't play it. I say, no, I don't want to play this. This is weird. And so that's it. And like somebody else can play it, that's fine. Because that's not like, I'm not God. Right? Like, I'm giving my opinion, right? It's whatever. But like, that's just what I think. But the difference is that, like, I
Someone
feel like
said, but
most
you're the
people
literal
probably agree with him. I would say, if you want me to be honest, 90% of people agree with him. 90%.
Agree with him about what? Because I'm still not clear on what his point of this video was, other than some companies censor things that are overly sexualized. Yeah. Sure. But I feel like the game, it's in the title. Baldur's Gate 3 exposes the hypocrisy. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's not. All the games you're comparing it to, where there are cutscenes and animations of women spinning their legs and showing off parts of their body, like, that's not a part of Baldur's Gate 3.
Percent of people don't want some weirdo, again, that's got a chip on their shoulder,
Right.
trying to make decisions for where a game goes. Nobody gives a fuck about this stuff. Nobody cares. People just want to have a good time.
Right. And Baldur's Gate 3 is a
I
really
don't think
good
that's
time.
his argument.
If you do nothing sexual in that game, Baldur's Gate 3 is amazing, and it's not the focus at all.
What he's saying, right, is that, like, people hold Eastern developers, like Japanese developers, to a different standard than the Western developers. So obviously some of the differences here, you want to talk about, like, the Abby thing.
Who is holding them to those standards?
In Last of Us. Well, she's not made out to look like a porn star. So whenever she has sex in the game, it's not just for the male gratification of the audience. It's also because of the it's just part of the nature of the game. So I think that's one of the big differences of why it's okay in the Western games, is because the characters in the Western games are not created as basically porn stars.
Right.
Which, by the way, I think is a problem. They need to make more of the porn stars. Let's get more of them. I like that way more.
You're just
But
being a
that
joker.
is, if I were to assume what is the difference in the mind of the people that complain about one and not the other, it's that it's not a, quote, realistic depiction of women. Everybody knows that attractive women aren't real, okay? So whenever they see one in a video game,
Stop it.
this is upsetting.
Stop it. You're being an asshole.
For permitting stuff like this, because even
Farming
in the
the
game
laws.
itself, when you create your character,
Yeah.
there's also full-on nudity and everything like that, and you can be able to adjust the sliders. But it's kind of funny that, from what I heard, that there's really no boob sliders for the females, but there's a a junk slider for the males that you allow to
Is that
adjust.
true? You can make their dick bigger, but not their tits? Is that true?
What? There's no sliders. There's like a few options as far as I've heard. I didn't go that far because I did all my experience on stream, so I wouldn't know. But like, what are you talking about? I feel like you didn't play this game at all, and you're just really gung-ho about your particular viewpoint, and you're just tearing this game apart and giving it a bad rep for no reason. I'm offended as a Baldur's Gate 3 fan. That's what's happening here.
No,
I'm curious
it's a
to hear
selection, that's it.
Carnage's
There's
reaction
no
to
slide.
this.
Okay, so it's not even real. Okay. Yeah,
Find
that's
that kind of
bullshit.
funny, but you're capable and you're allowed to have that. I don't have an issue with that. If that's what they want to do, then that's fine. I just don't like the hypocrisy or how one-sided it is, because where is that same energy from these people? Because these
No,
journalists,
it's definitely one-sided as fuck. Like, look at all the women that say things that, like, if a guy, there are women that say things about Henry Cavill that if a guy had said that about an actress, he would be in a bad time.
Not wrong.
That's just the truth.
The difference is that's real life. That's a person.
Nah, there is a double standard. There definitely is, and that's just the way the culture is.
These are the same people, these journalists and all these detractors that you will find on Twitter that will attack you. They're nowhere to be seen when it comes to
Baldur's Gate 3 bear sex tip of the horny iceberg. Nah, dude. Nah. If you want to play Baldur's Gate 3 on horny mode, I guess that's a playthrough you can have. But that's not what most people are experiencing.
to this game. In fact, they're posting the sex scenes. You can see it on Twitter. They're posting the sex scenes of all the craziness that you can encounter in this game, and yet
because it's the most controversial and that's what's going to get the most clicks and views. What are we talking about? That's not what the game is.
that's fine. These are the same
Oh
people
my
that's
God.
telling you that
Yeah,
they're
but are they the same people that are complaining about Eastern games being overly sexual, though? Like, because that's the main thing. Like, what the fuck are we talking
No.
about? Because, like, is it the same person or is it a different person?
calling you horny. They're calling
What's funny is like this Alice Bell person who you're using for your argument would probably take offense with a lot of the games that you seem to like, such as Dead or Alive or Street Fighter or what have you.
they're saying to you that you're an incel and go play porn or go watch porn, but yet
I think this guy's been called incel one too many times.
they're pretty much posting up the depiction
That's
of what
what it
porn
sounds like.
is, because
Then
there
show
is
me.
pretty much porn in this game,
Because even some of the
essentially.
same people say
But
the same
it's
thing.
okay for them to do that, and that's why I talk about, and I always say this: just continue to call this nonsense out. Continue to
Having big titties bad, right? Ah, yes, attractive women are bad, but this is good. What happened to just go watch porn? What happened to if you want porn, there are sites for it. You don't need porn in your games. These are all the opinions that don't matter, dude.
stand your ground and say, hey, this is what I want, and just ignore those people, because at this point they really have they have no foot, they have no stool, they have no high ground to stand on at this
They
point.
never did, because their opinions don't mean a fucking thing. Like, there are a lot of people, for example,
Develop your games to whatever ethical standard you wish. Someone's always going to be mad.
that fucking hate me. Like, for example, you go on LSF, everybody fucking hates me on that subreddit. You go on some of these other gaming subreddits, everybody fucking hates me. There is like a 200 or 300 page at this point thread about why people hate me on the Baldur's Gate Steam page. I looked it up, I saw it. I read like 2 pages, I got bored. But does that matter to me? What is that like? What is that gonna do? Oh my God, somebody doesn't like what I'm saying? Well, I guess I should just quit then. Oh, it's just quit. All right, great. Well, yeah, people don't like it. Well, who gives a fuck? Who cares? It doesn't. They're NPCs. What are you doing? What are you doing spending all your time worried about what this other person thinks? I have
Right.
a very simple system in my life, okay? If it wouldn't affect me if a person got hit by a car, it's also not going to affect me what they think. It sounds harsh, but that's the way I think.
Probably leaves your mind at ease.
I don't want to hear nothing from these crowds of people. After all of this, after shaming other people for having preferences and wanting to see or wanting to have certain things in their games, but then turn around, it's completely okay. And this goes overboard compared to some of the soft things or some of the mild things people want. For some reason, just wanting a curvy woman or wanting a woman to just look attractive looking and appealing to you, they label that as you wanting porn. That's
Man. The way you just showed those two scenes, it's very obvious what you think. And in my opinion, you're just wrong. Like, And it comes down to, for me, it comes down to like screen time, like how long these things are on screen. In one case, you're playing with a character and you're constantly seeing it. In another, you're doing like one little depiction that has like, there's an implication, like, oh, tentacle wraps around neck, grabs butt, falls back, fade to black. It's not even the same, dude.
Or that is what you want. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh man, that like people are making fun of the way this guy talks, and it's not very nice. But at the end of the day, like, I'm listening to your points, and I don't agree with them.
Yes, please.
Crazy. So a woman being curvy or having a bust, that's automatically porn?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, think about what people are saying when it comes
Not
to
on the game, but on the internet.
the aesthetics of a woman. That any signs of bust, any signs of curve, that automatically deemed as porn.
Well, exactly, bro. Like, you see fat chicks all the time talk about skinny bitches, but you don't see a bunch of skinny girls get around and talk about fat bitches. People get pissed off about that. It's just upwards discrimination. That's just the way it is. Upwards discrimination in our culture is acceptable for everything. It's okay to make fun of tall people, but if you make fun of short people, you're an asshole. It's okay to eat the rich, but you can't eat the poor.
Literal upwards.
It's okay to shit on, let's say a guy of a woman. It's okay to say men are trash, but it's not okay to say women are trash. That's just the way it is, man. And it doesn't make it right. That's just how it is.
It is what it is.
But yet, you see degeneracy like this in Baldur's Gate 3. That's completely fine. It's just a joke. Because you see it on...
Wait a second. This might work against you, my friend. But you're saying degeneracy when it's just two guys having sex?
But yet, you see degeneracy like this in Baldur's Gate 3. That's completely fine. It's just a joke.
That's not a joke. That's just two consenting men having sex. What are you saying now? Now you're just being homophobic. Based on that, you edited the video. So, like, what are you saying?
Because you see it on Twitter and X, or you see it from journalists. Oh, you don't understand. This is a joke behind this. No.
No. The joke is that a druid is a person. They became a bear and had some fun. The joke is when the squirrel observes it, acts shocked, and drops its acorn. That's the joke.
Either one thing is, if this is okay, then everything should be okay.
He's right.
So
yeah, if you can have sex with a bear, you should be able to have a hot girl on the screen. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally. I totally agree.
Yeah, but you're acting like that's all Baldur's Gate 3 is a porn simulator for tentacles and furries and what have you. That's not what the game is. So you're just being a goof.
I think 90% of people agree with that. There's a small contingent of freaks out there, and they don't even play the games.
That pretty much just wraps this up. I just wanted to give you my thoughts and opinions on this, because I really find this just downright ridiculous with Baldur's Gate 3. The sheer hypocrisy. It seems like Western studios are allowed to have things like this, and Eastern studios is not even showing sex at all. It's just the woman's body, the figure, the curve.
They just had that girl do a twirl and showed all the different little like outfits. Do you think Baldur's Gate 3 has that? Because it doesn't.
The context of it, right? It's the context. Like, I understand where they're coming from. Like I can understand what their argument is. I just disagree with the argument. So, like, the idea is that the reason why people don't like it is that it treats women like they're not people and like they're just objects.
Right.
Whereas, like, in Baldur's Gate, This
They're
is
people.
consensual sex between two characters that have a backstory.
Sure.
But like these characters
exactly
are
right.
being presented purely just for their look.
What's the lore behind this thing? So like, how do you compare this to Baldur's Gate 3? And then you flash to a scene between two consenting men having sex and refer to it as degeneracy. Are you saying sex is degeneracy? Because it's not. Or is it degeneracy because it's two men? I don't understand your argument there.
Looks. And that's it. It's just total fan service. There's no actual value of the character.
Right.
And oftentimes the sexual elements downplay the character's seriousness.
You keep cutting to dead or alive. So like clearly you're a fan. I'm trying to understand how it's hypocritical of Baldur's Gate 3 to depict real life characters growing attachment and having sex as part of a narrative. Like sex is a part of life. They're allowed to grow attracted to each other and have that. What are you trying to say?
That's what they think. Now, I don't agree with any of this. I think it's fucking great if you've got girls in bikinis. I think they're hot, and that's all that I care about. It doesn't matter to me. What is this doing to the culture? I don't care. Like, what? I don't care. I just want to see. I want to see a good game. Like, that's it. Yeah, why would I care about what they think? Well, if you don't like this, don't play the fucking game. Like, I'm not gonna like. Why do I have to listen to you? But like, that is what their opinion is. Like, hopefully, I expressed what they think in kind of a fair way. I hope that I did.
Or the bust or whatever like that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that's the problem. But this is.
I mean, I appreciate you including these little like cuts in your video because even though it's, in my opinion, working against your argument, it's more honest that you're doing that. But you can see the difference. It's right in front of you.
Is full on. Pretty much, you can call it porn, and that's what the hypocrisy come from.
How is it porn? Extremely reductive. Agree. Like you could classify them both as softcore porn. The fact that there's nudity does not equal porn.
Like I said, if that's what you into, that's what you into. But gotta keep that same energy when it comes to these type of conversations.
Well, it's also because it's guys, right? Like, you look at this dude, right? Where's this? This dude right here. Where's it? Both of these dudes are massively fucking in shape. Like, let's be honest. This guy doesn't go to Planet Fitness. This guy goes to Gold's Gym. All right? Assyrian maybe goes to Planet Fitness. I don't know, but they are both like good-looking guys.
Oh man,
in
that's
shape.
funny.
Both have a six-pack,
He don't
etc.
go to
Like,
Planet
this is
Fitness.
not
He
the
goes to
average
Gold's.
male body. Okay? Assyrian, I don't know how to fucking say his name. Asterion? I don't know. But like, what I'm saying is that there's a double standard with men and women, right? Where like, if there's a thin woman with larger than average breasts, somehow this is an unrealistic standard that nobody should be expected. It's just disgusting.
Exactly. This is an unrealistic standard for men. I will concede that point. Is that, oh, you're creating this image of men that's not realistic. Fine. But it's equal on both sides in this game. And this is just a part of the game, but it's a very small part of the game. It's not the focus. It's not like, oh, let's play Baldur's Gate 3 so that we can sexualize fantasy characters. That's not what it's about.
Right? But at the same time, you can have a guy here that looks like he could be on the stage of a bodybuilding competition. Maybe not quite, but he's at least on his way to that. And somehow that's totally fucking fine. Yeah, no, I get it. Like, I totally get it. But I think it's a male and female thing, too.
Porn.
Reverse the role.
And
Yeah,
that's what the hypocrisy come from. Like I said, if that's what you into, that's what you into. But gotta keep that same energy when it comes to these type of conversations and everything. Because I just don't think that's right. and you shouldn't, you know, be on this high ground and then shame others for wanting to have their preference. But then it's totally okay. You engage in the same you're engaging in just pure degeneracy.
Yeah.
But
You're really hung up on this term degeneracy when that was just a depiction of two men, consenting adults, enjoying a sexual experience together. Like, you're just being homophobic. So you're saying you're mad because people called you an incel for playing a game that's about putting girls in different bikini outfits, but then two gay men having sex is more degenerate. Pure degeneracy. You just said that. That's just a shit take, bro.
fine, go ahead. That's what you into. That's what you into. You know.
You keep saying that's what you into. That's what you into. Like, we get it. You're not into gay. We understand. But you're doing yourself a disservice for the argument that you were trying to make. What this video really should be about is that you hold double standards about depicting sex in video games, but instead you're just trying to shit on Baldur's Gate 3 for being more honest about sex and not making it the centric focus of the game. But you're just showing all these other games that make it a focus.
But that wraps this video up. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe button, because it definitely helps you out in the algorithm. And by the way, check out this shirt. This shirt right here is made by my brothers Keo Lancer and DX Strike. They have their own t-shirt company called Strike and Keo Tees, Official Business LLC. You can check out their website where you can find plenty of cool shirts. They also customize shirts, so if you're a content creator and want to have your own brand on a shirt, you can go check them out, talk with them. They can make you a shirt as well. And also, if you a non-profit organization or any kind of business as well, they give you some custom deals. So definitely go check them out. I'll leave the link in the description below. Remember, Strike and Keo Tees. And this is Mugen Lord signing off. See you Game Fiends later.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Mugen TV. Oh, so you must be excited about Project Mugen.
I mean, like, I agree with like what his point is. I don't think that it's necessarily like a Western and Eastern thing.
It's not. Like, how far east are we talking? Because there are game developers very close to Asia that design things tastefully. Like, I think you're more so talking about America versus Europe versus like Japan, Korea. That's what I took from that. So it's a trifecta of comparison, and all we're saying here is that like Europe has the best perspective on it. Yeah, agreed. That's all there is to it.
I don't really think so, like just in general, because like there's a lot of Eastern games that release that like I'll link you all the video. There's a video. This is a good one. I think that like anybody that talks about this shit is good. Very incel. That you think the guy's an incel? Why is he an incel? What makes sense?
I don't think he's an incel. I think he's been called an incel a lot. Case in point. But you know, this video doesn't really help the argument of disproving the accusation, because there's just getting angry about people enjoying a game that has this little depiction that's, first of all, some of it's very unrealistic. Druids turning into bears, mind flayers, having sex with like your player character, stuff like that. But even when you're just talking about the stuff that aims more towards realism, referring to gay sex between men as pure degeneracy, like those things don't help your argument. Those things make you look, they put you in a bad light. So it is what it is, I guess.
What makes him an incel? Yeah, like I don't think that there's anything about what he said that was being an incel. I hate the whole keep the same energy. Things should be judged on a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
I kind of agree
Agreed.
with that in a way.
It's a case-by-case basis, absolutely. It's not keep the same energy. There's no energy regulator who's going to go to each game developer and say, we got to keep the same energy here. Baldur's Gate 3 did this, so you got to have the same Baldur's Gate 3 energy over here. Fuck off.
The keep the same energy, because it's like, whenever you judge one thing in one standard and another thing in another standard, what that indicates is that you actually don't have a principled stance on it. It's circumstantial. Which everything in life is circumstantial.
Right.
But in general, there's a lot of people that, like, they don't really give a fuck if it's happening whenever it's something that they like. So they don't actually care about this. And, like, I don't think this is the biggest deal. Most people are like this. There's no reason to get upset or angry about it. But, like...
That's my point, too. Like, I'm reacting to this because it's here in front of me, and I have something to say about it. But at the end of the day, none of this matters. People are going to buy Dead or Alive. Tons of copies are going to sell. People are going to buy Baldur's Gate 3, and tons of copies are going to sell. It's very clear this guy did not care for Baldur's Gate 3. Fine.
Like, it's just worthy to take in mind. One of the main arguments is a lot of Eastern stuff tends to use younger characters, or characters designed to look younger. I mean, like, none of the Dead or Alive beach volleyball characters were designed to look younger. Like, they're all obviously of age. Like, come on. What is this? Like, we're not, like, and I agree.
We're not saying younger in terms of less than 18, but he's saying, like, they all look like they're in their 20s.
Again, like, you want to talk about some weird, like, lolly shit. Yeah, I agree with you. But that's not really what I'm getting at. There's at least one. I haven't seen every single one. But I'm saying, like, in general, I don't think that's very common. All right, Rose. Yeah, maybe they have one. People trying to push their realism agenda on games that aren't built upon that. It's annoying as fuck. I think that the problem what's annoying is that people think that their opinion matters on somebody else's video game.
That's true.
Like, if you don't like what a certain game is,
don't play it.
Or what's happening in a game,
right,
then just don't play it. Like, there are games.
There's nothing about Dead or Alive that seems appealing. I can respect that some people want to play that game. Same thing with Street Fighter. For me, my evaluation of Street Fighter isn't like, oh, I don't like how they're sexualizing women. I just don't like arcade fighters. I'm not good at them. They require a certain level of skill that I don't have. That's my, calculation on do I want to play this game. But for some people, it's about whether or not there's a boob slider, I guess.
Games that have lolly stuff in them, I just don't play the game. Like, I'm not on a crusade.
And I did say that in kind of a tone that implied that they're lesser. They're not. I'm just being a dingus.
To get them banned. I just don't consume that kind of content because I'm not a fan of it. That's it. So, like, instead of trying to get the world to change, why don't you just change what you look at in the world? Just stop focusing on shit that just makes you mad.
Well put.
I'll link you all the video again. Why can't they simply censor one character if that's the issue, not the whole game? It's because people that have a chip on their shoulder and they want the rest of the world to carry their cross.
Hey guys, it's Moogle Lord here,
that's
and
all
today...
it is. And it is so exhausting.
Curious to read some of the comments on
for this shit. Armored Core 6? Yeah, we're gonna look at one other thing, then we're gonna start playing Armored Core. That's where I'm thinking. People want to be moralists? Nah, people want other people to be moralists for them.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but it's still the same general thing, you know? Final Fantasy 16 got a lot of negative reception for being too horny with characters like Benedicta. I never even read that. I don't think that's even true. Benedicta was a thought, but she wasn't like, I mean, she wasn't even in the game. Like, that's the thing, is like, anybody that actually played all the way through Final Fantasy 16, Benedicta is there for like 1/3 or 1/5 of the game. She's not even in the majority of the game.
The same argument I would make about Baldur's Gate 3 and sex scenes. Unless you're constantly choosing, like, let's have sex options, it's such a small aspect of the game. So what if it prompts you at some times that you're not expecting? they're putting it out there. You say no, you move on. Like, it's a bit of fan service for people who are into that. It sells some copies, but it's not the focus.
Yeah, so it's like anybody that has that opinion, it's basically like you say that, and it's like, okay, that means that you didn't actually, like, you don't actually know what you're talking about. You didn't
Right.
actually play the game, right?
Right.
You out yourself, yeah. Like, 'cause
And it's very obvious that that guy didn't play Baldur's Gate 3. Like, I've sunk a lot of hours into that game. That's not the focus.
she's not even an important character, really. She's a character, like, you deal with for, like, the first 2 hours, 3 hours of the game, and then she's done.
$200 for a skin.
And half right, how the issue relates to both genders is shown. Yeah, well, I mean, that's just, again, that's just the way our culture is. Western removing Buddhist symbol because it reminds of a certain group. Yeah, I don't know about that. Well, I mean, I know you're talking about the swastika and shit, but, like, I don't really know exactly, like, when that happened. That's not why people got mad about Benedicta. They got mad because her character was chasing dudes, and her story was basically like, oh, she almost got abused, and boom, that's it.
What?
Yeah, I think that, again, it's like these.
Man, all her character was chasing dudes, then her story was basically, oh, she almost got or did get abused. Okay. I don't know. I didn't play that game, so.
These are, there's like certain girls that are like on social media and stuff that like get really angry whenever there's like women that are shown in like a submissive or negative perception, like they have something to prove, and I think that's a very unhealthy outlook on life. Not based off of the outlook itself, but the problem in the Co video. Yeah, I guess we'll watch the Co Carnage video. Yeah, we'll look at this one. We'll look at this one tomorrow. It's a sad outlook on life because you're trying to change the way the world.
This is the perfect follow-up to whatever that was, because this guy's takes on Baldur's Gate 3 are going to be honest, thorough, and complete. He played through the game. I've played through the game. I know exactly how he's going to feel about this. And it's going to be positive because it's a fantastic game. Play it now. I'm such a like evangelical Baldur's Gate 3 fan.
Looks at things. Like, anytime that you try to change the world, you're gonna be unhappy. Like, especially in terms of how people feel.
Sure.
There's those self-righteous game reviewers need an excuse to write longer, meaningless paragraphs into reviews to feel like they have English degrees of no purpose. No gamers actually felt that way. Yeah, exactly. Nobody really thinks this.
Fair.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody gives a fuck. Great outlook for life. It is a great outlook. I would much rather be a person that focused on myself than focused on trying to change people's opinions on the fucking internet.
Sure.
It's the biggest waste of time of your life. Like, if you ever gotten in an argument with somebody on the internet, and then like a week later you think back on how stupid you are for even engaging in it?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is I don't plan to engage anybody about this conversation. I'm just speaking into the void. Agree or disagree, by all means.
Even considering, like, especially like a fucking new Don Hung trailer released 2 minutes ago. Yeah, I might look at that. I don't even remember the argument. Yeah, it's just it's a waste of time.